While you're enjoying summer days and nights at McCoy Stadium, are you thinking, well, the clock is ticking? One organization says, hold on a second. And they say they're organizing for Pawtucket. My guest tonight is one of the citizen leaders of that organization known as Organizing for Pawtucket, namely to keep the Paw Sox at McCoy Stadium. His name is David Norton, and he will be with me later on in the evening, meaning in a few minutes. Don't go anywhere. How are you? Good? You ready for the 4th of July? Be careful with the fireworks out there, you crazy nuts. I actually enjoy the neighborhood. Boom, 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 boom. It's kind of like a little bit of a thing that you expect. Just be safe, shoot up straight, be careful. Don't call the cops. Neighbors, everybody just relax. It's okay. Obviously, I'm a little bit of freelance mind. It started when my director, Kevin, told me that he was already on vacation in his mind when he sat down tonight. So this, Kev, this could be, who knows? Jess is just like, just hurry up, Chubby, and get the TV show done. Anyway, by the way, speaking of Chubby Guy on the TV, not only twice now, but 3 times beginning Monday of next week. Not only are we on MyRI-TV, 7:30 and 11:30 weeknights, we will now be on Fox Providence, midnights. Okay? So that's a cool thing, and you've got 3 chances and no excuses not to be tuning in. Let us check the rundown and see what's going on in the world and say things about things that are going on in the world. Yeah, he's not giving in. I don't think anybody should expect him to. But he wrote a little bit of an essay in, on his Facebook page and sent out a press release. He being the Bishop of Providence, Bishop Thomas Tobin. Headline on this one, he encourages same-sex marriage objectors. Seems there's this woman in Texas who is a county clerk, and she said, you know what? Hood, Texas, as a matter of fact. She said, I'm not doing the petitions for same-sex marriage. It's against my religious beliefs. I'm not doing it. She's protected, by the way, by the Supreme Court decision. However, someone else has got to step in, and that's kind of where it goes. Here's what the bishop wrote on all of this. It's a long missive. I'm not going to read the entire thing, but he says in the middle, congratulations to Ms. Lang. That's the lady we're talking about. For her courageous stand, we need many more conscientious objectors, public officials, private business owners, advertisers, religious leaders, family members, people of courage who will abide by their conscience, protect their religious rights, and not support or enable the furtherance of this moral aberration, so-called same-sex marriage. And he goes on. Here, look, here's the thing. People react in some funny ways, but let me just say this. The bishop has every right to be heard, and thankfully the bishop is still being heard. So when he speaks, people listen and it makes the front page. That's number one. Number two, I know a lot of you think he ought to just shut up about the thing. There is our fine bishop in frozen fashion. But the, okay? But the, it's going to be a doozy tonight. I can just feel it. But here's the thing. I really do think that although it may feel like some oversell for people with the bishop, that he protests too much, the bishop, and he's an activist bishop on this issue. This one really gets under his craw. The church, I think, won't be harmed by this kind of thing. People say, oh, people are going to leave the church, you know, too tough a stand. You know, I think subconsciously, it's kind of like a teenager gets disciplined by his or her parents. They're not really buying the act of the parents, not buying the argument, but the line drawn in the sand is something that is respected. And I think the church has got to stay with a line drawn in the sand, and people, whether they agree with it or not, Catholic or not, participating in church or not, have to respect it. And I think either consciously or subconsciously they will. All right. I got that one out. Still photos of the bishop. Okay. All right. Late entry. Yeah. Timing on this is very interesting. Good Samaritan Bill is the conversation here. There's a headline that talks about what happened at this rally, and Eyewitness News has the account of the governor kind of crashing this rally, all to help those who are in overdose emergency crisis, worried about calling the ambulance in 911.
Good Samaritan laws do save lives. Good Samaritan laws have saved lives and do save lives, and it is frustrating and disappointing that the General Assembly left this building in this session without addressing this issue. And this is, it's an unacceptable situation, and I urge the General Assembly to reinstate these protections as quickly as they're able to.
Now look, the governor has every right to her opinion, and I think she should weigh in on legislative issues. But where was she during the General Assembly session? They closed, they didn't deal with this thing. There's now an expired bill, and so, you know, cops can bust somebody if they call 911 in a drug environment. It seems like gratuitous grandstanding, doesn't it? If she felt so strongly about this, she should have peppered the General Assembly. By the way, I told you about this. Was it on the radio on WPRO weekdays noon to 3, or was it here the other night? I can't remember sometimes what I say on which show when. But, you know, there are 34 governors in America who can call the General Assembly back to vote on something. We need line item veto. Yeah, I talked about it last night, right? We need line item veto for the governor, whoever the governor happens to be, and the right for the governor to call the General Assembly back to business. We'll see. By the way, that subject matter and that bill will be our discussion on Monday night of next week on MyRI TV and starting Monday, Fox Providence. All right, you got a month. Huffing and puffing and blowing the house down is the Providence mayor. Here's the headline on this one. Now it's August 1st. If you were paying attention to this story, you may remember it began as June 30th. Jorge Elorza issued a 30-day whatever the heck type of thing with the firefighters of the Providence Fair City back in early June, maybe late May, when he wanted to move them from 4 shifts to 3, 4 platoons to 3, all in a money savings effort. We've had multiple shows on this, and of course it spawned momentum for some legislative bills that eventually died at the State House to try to protect the interests of the firefighters. The mayor finally gravitated to the idea that of course he's going to pay them for the more hours that they would work on a 3-shift versus 4-shift situation. However, I don't understand what the issue is. I mean, they're negotiating and they can't seem to get a deal done. And while he can't get a deal done, he's issuing another 30-day demand that if they don't have a deal done, they're going to go ahead and move to 3 shifts anyway in 30 days. Sounds like boy cried wolf if he doesn't do it by August 1st with or without a deal. So now his mayoralty and credibility are kind of under, I don't know, the white light. We'll see how that whole thing goes. And this was interesting. You remember a couple of Fridays ago on June 19th, we talked about the North Smithfield recall effort. Here's the headline in the Valley Breeze. It looks like it ain't going to happen. The Bible of Northern Rhode Island, as I like to call it, reports that they are short. Yeah, maybe 1,000 registered signatures on the petition. I guess they need near 3,000, and they only have a couple of thousand. You may remember they were battling. Here's some pictures of Paulette Hamilton, the town administrator, who's the one who's under fire, and Stephen Vowles was representing the petition seekers looking to upend her deal. They had all sorts of complaints about the way she's running the place, and she had much to say about their petition to chase her out.
You got a beef with me, take it up with me, I'll give you the facts, we'll go on and we'll move ahead, because the town does not need to have this kind of subrogation. It just doesn't.
Yeah, I have to tell you, I don't understand what the petition drive is all about. The deadline was today. According to the Valley Breeze, it wasn't going to make it, and so, you know, the next election will tell the story. She did nothing that would be illegal. She did nothing that would be considered against the charter. She did nothing other than make some decisions that people disagree with, it seems. And, you know, recalls usually are left for people who are legally insubordinate. But it looks like it's falling short anyway, and probably that's the way it ought to be. And today, if you were paying attention, quite the scare in the Washington Navy Yard. Again, the Washington Post has the headline here, all clear. It was kind of a weird thing. CBS has coverage of the event.
Law enforcement officials swarmed Washington, D.C.'s Navy Yard in response to reports of an active shooter in the building.
We heard someone yelling, you know, get out of the building, stay away from the cafeteria, get out of here.
But a thorough search of the buildings and grounds found no shooter and no evidence any shots were fired. A Pentagon source tells CBS News this was based off someone who thought she heard a gunshot and reported it.
The person who made a call heard what she thought may have been gunshots, and she made a call, which is what employees here are trained to do. We have no concerns that this was a hoax.
Law enforcement officials are already on high alert after the FBI issued a bulletin warning terrorists may be targeting the 4th of July holiday.
Yeah, I peeked in on that press conference today. It was way too long. The press kept asking the same question. So how do you know that she was legit? How do you know it was a legitimate call? How do you know that? Listen, the woman made a mistake. They're all on high alert in the Washington Navy Yard after what happened in 2013. And so you can understand why a problem like this occurred. And of course, there's concern about the 4th of July holiday in general. Eyewitness News talked to former Adjutant General Reginald Centracchio about you know, the approach when we worry about ISIS et al. Type of security problems.
Every time any event takes place, such as the 4th of July, Memorial Day, anything that's really significant to this country, we should be prepared to see the same kind of setup in reference to the FBI and sharing of information through fusion cells as we see going on as we speak. But we need to understand that we have enough trained individuals to be able to discern what's good and what's bad and to act on those things that are real.
Whether you're in New York or in Providence or at the local fireworks or in your backyard, enjoy the nation's celebration, but stay vigilant. Keep your eyes and ears open. Your state of mind is important to us. Call us at 228-1886 and leave us a voicemail. Email us. Maybe you want to put a Facebook post up or tweet at us at Dan York Show, YORKE. Here is a Facebook post on the issue of this gay marriage thing. Hey, Dan, you do know that the definition of marriage in the Bible is a lot different than today's definition. For example, women no longer have to marry their rapists. Well, thank you, Mary, for that very constructive thought. You know, it's this kind of hit and run type of statement and argument that kind of pollutes the entire conversation about same-sex marriage. And that's all I have to say about that. When we come back, will they stay at McCoy? These people certainly think they can make it happen. Stay with us. So quite a while back when the bomb was dropped on Pawtucket that the now new ownership of the Pawtucket Red Sox wanted to exit stage south by about 5, 6, 7 miles. I never have really gotten an accurate geographic reading on the difference. You know, is it air miles, is it road miles between McCoy and the 195 redevelopment land where they're thinking about coming. But Mayor Don Grebian was kind enough to join us here, and I asked him about this battle to keep McCoy the home of the Paw Sox and what the chances are. You got to be planning what your out plan is, yet you're still fighting.
Right.
So on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the highest, what do you think your chances are of saving this deal?
No, I mean it's probably 1 or 2.
But worth fighting for.
Absolutely, no, it's worth fighting for.
So you know, keeping a stiff upper lip, obviously, and then guess what? Understandably and predictably and thankfully, I mean, just for the community to stand up, rallies. Look at the headline we have here. Stadium opponents rally at the State House, and you know they had a couple hundred or so, maybe 150 people that showed up there, which is better than nothing, as they say. David Norton is the founder of an organization called Organizing for Pawtucket. Welcome, by the way. Nice to have you.
Thank you.
That's a funky name. The organization known as Organizing for Pawtucket. I mean, who does your branding? You need another. How about Just Stay at McCoy? The founder of Just Stay the Heck at McCoy.
Well, we wanted everybody to know it was Pawtucket. And the branding came from probably the most famous organization or the most famous community organizer in the history of the United States, Barack Obama.
Organizing for?
I think it's Organizing for America, OFA. So OFP works pretty well.
So that's the thinking, huh?
Yep.
I see. Well, listen, so you understand, I think we've talked about this on the radio. I am fascinated by the conversation. I couldn't be more aggressively ambivalent about where this thing turns up. So I'll just be more curious than debatable on this whole thing. So you are an everyday citizen in Pawtucket, living the American dream, working for a living, all that kind of thing. Tell everybody about yourself real quick and how you came into this.
I was born and raised in Pawtucket,
okay.
And I live in Pawtucket, just a few minutes from McCoy Stadium in Darlington, and also a few minutes from Slater Park, and I work in internet marketing, so that has something to do with the way I've organized this, Organizing for Pawtucket online.
Okay.
The name, as you said, is a branding, and it's also search engine optimization so that people can find it very easily and the organization can grow.
Gotcha. So you had an itch to scratch on this when? When did you decide to say, you know what, somebody's got to start organizing about this McCoy Red Sox thing, Paw Sox thing?
It was about 8 or 9 weeks ago, so just over 2 months ago, I noticed there was a great disconnect between the legislators and their constituents. So we've got this number coming out of the governor's office of 98% of people that responded about this issue to her office were opposed to it. And I just find that number to be incredible.
I don't.
98%.
Nobody contact the governor's office to say great job. They contact the governor's office to say something's wrong. So that's we can get sidetracked.
Yeah.
When the AP put out the story, 98% of the people that have contacted the state public officials about the Paw Sox thing are against it. Well, no kidding.
Well, the thing is,
that's why people do it. They contact their public officials to complain.
The Paw Sox ownership has put out a public relations strategy that's been a disaster, quite frankly, but they have on their website certain advocacy tools where you can contact your legislator, and they've been promoting it for a long time, since the beginning. I forget the name of the website, but they do have advocacy tools, and they do have a Facebook page, and they are encouraging people,
no doubt,
to do it. So I think that 98% number is just
well. Let's not get bogged down on whether that's a legitimate number. There's no doubt in my mind that you are at least correct about a large pulse of disappointment, maybe disgust out there amongst Paw Sox fans, people living in the city of Pawtucket who feel like they've been let down. So you're trying to harness that. You had this rally last weekend or last week trying to drum up some support. Do you think it was successful?
Yeah, absolutely. It was very successful. We put together this rally with our sister organization in Providence. And
meaning we don't want the stadium organization. What do they call themselves? Whatever. They don't want the stadium.
Yep.
So the we don't want you to leave group is you, and the other group is we don't want you here, period.
Well, I'm in both. My petition says, the petition that I delivered to the state leadership says to all of the state leaders that we wish to keep the Paw Sox in Pawtucket, or we demand to keep the Paw Sox in Pawtucket and refuse the construction of a new stadium in Providence. So my organization is called Organizing for Pawtucket, but I also don't want to trap myself into people believing that this is just in Pawtucket. Because the people that came to the rally, the majority of them were from Providence. And I've been working with the Providence team. We have home rule charter voter initiative going on that we're going to present to the Providence City Council. So I think the city that is more upset about this than Pawtucket is Providence. They don't want it. I've been at farmers markets. I've knocked on doors in Providence. I've been to Lippert Park collecting signatures. I've been to the Armory collecting signatures, and plenty of other people have been on Hope Street and I think Wickenden collecting signatures, just in Providence. So that's a huge effort going on.
Okay, so David can make his arguments in the next segment, and the big question I have is, well, what if they split? Because that's what they say they're going to do. Stay with us.
We need something, a share in the profits, some upside, something for the money we're going to put forward.
Here's what I need to know. Short answer. Are we this close, or that close with the Paw Sox?
With the present deal? Not
This close.
happening.
Not happening. So that was a while back when we were talking with the governor about the first plan that the late, God rest his soul, Jim Skeffington, general counsel for the Red Sox, Rhode Island staple guy economically, and the voice and the face of the new Paw Sox organization. He passed away suddenly only weeks ago, but his deal was $120 million over 30 years from the state to the franchise, stadium be built by them, but financing really, nobody bought it. Nobody, no, so that first offer, David, is not going to happen. Yet I'm sure that there are plenty of behind-the-scenes conversations going on, and perhaps a special session in the fall that will take care of truck tolls and McCoy Stadium, or the 195 Paw Sox thing.
Yeah.
Give me your bullet point arguments as to why you think they need to stay at McCoy?
There are lots of businesses around McCoy that are going to lose money, perhaps go bankrupt, fire employees or lay off employees. It's going to be a huge tax burden for the Rhode Island taxpayer in general to build a new stadium with the deal that they put together.
Well, that won't happen. Not at least not that way. There might be subsidy, but I don't think there's going to be any direct payments from the state to the team.
But it's not going to be zero. And
Probably not.
I think the majority of Rhode Islanders wouldn't give them $1 to build a stadium in Providence. And I honestly believe that.
All right, so what happens when a new ownership group absolutely, positively, unequivocally believes that they have to have an urban setting, meaning a city setting?
Yep.
And if they can't, we fly the coop. We lose the Pawtucket Red Sox to Springfield, Mass, or wherever they go. How are you going to feel about that when it's over?
Well, I'd like for them to stay in Pawtucket.
They're not going to. They say they're not going to. Now, they could change their minds.
But it's not only their decision, it's the state's decision, too. They like to pretend that they're a private organization that's able to do whatever they want.
They are.
Well, why are they asking the state for money?
Because that's the culture of sports development today. You know, asking and getting can be two different things, but they're a private organization and they can leave McCoy like that. You haven't recognized that?
Oh, no, I think people haven't recognized that they aren't fully a private organization. They rely on the state, and the state must make a decision.
The Boston
as to
Red
whether
Sox,
they're going
the Boston
to
Red
survive.
Sox now, for the most part, own the Pawtucket Red Sox. I mean, there's some, okay. These guys are a wholly owned subsidiary. They can relocate at any time.
Yep.
Pay off their lease penalty and go.
What are they doing fishing for money in Providence?
Because that's the culture. If they don't get it, they'll have to make a decision. But for you to suggest that there's some kind of legal tie to the no.
There is.
Goodbye.
Yeah.
See ya. They leave.
Yeah. It's absolutely not. It's a public-private partnership.
No, it's a privately owned business that has subsidy.
Then they won't.
They can leave and go find another subsidy. The casino money in Springfield will be flowing for them to go there.
Why don't they go there?
They might. You might chase them out. That's my point. That's my point.
Well, I think a majority of Rhode Islanders would be in favor of that outcome. If they don't stay in Pawtucket, then we don't want to subsidize them in Providence.
Well,
we wouldn't give them $1 to stay in Providence.
Now, that is a premise that we'll have to follow up on another show. We got hung up on that concept. I know that you wanted to make a quick mention of 38 Studios. You got 20 seconds to do so. You think there's common ground
Yes,
here?
I'd like to read.
Oh, you have to hurry. You have to hurry.
More to the point, Mr. Schilling let drop that he wasn't getting much help in Massachusetts when it came to the financing he needed to expand, and he was frustrated. You can imagine the heralding trumpets that must have been blasting in Mr. Carcierce's ears as he listened to Mr. Schilling dangle hundreds of jobs in front of him.
To Macacheri?
Yeah, sorry.
Oh, okay.
I wasn't here while he was governor in Rhode Island. Sorry.
Right. The moral of the story is 5 seconds.
Let's not have another 38 Studios.
Gotcha. All right, come back. We'll follow this. Final word. They are privately held and they can skip. Just know that. Anyway, hey, listen, tomorrow night, Jeff Kinney, Diary of a Wimpy Kid in a great bookstore in Massachusetts. A great story. You'll love it. We'll see you tomorrow on MyRI TV. And don't forget, Fox starting Monday night at midnight.